Tariffs, 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 and trade war. The war between Canada, America, and Mexico, but we kind of forget about them because they're not really as important to us as they are as America is. And with the upcoming review of Kuzma, Canada is in a not so good position, and the media has some, well, real interesting viewpoints about what to expect from this upcoming review of Kuzma. So we're going to take a look at it. All I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Here we go.
Returning now to our coverage of Canada-U.S. trade talks. Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Canada, David Cohen. Sir, good afternoon, and thanks for your time. Your initial reaction, sir, to... Yes, sir. Your initial reaction to John Bolton's comments saying that it was a mistake for Prime Minister Carney to apologize. Was it a sign of weakness when the Prime Minister apologized for those anti-tariff ads to Donald Trump, sir?
So I think it was not a mistake, but more importantly than that, I think it is a mistake to try and second guess the tactics and strategy that the Prime Minister is using. He's in the room. He has the feel of what the relationship between the president and he as Prime Minister is. The rest of us are outside observers, and I think it would be a mistake for us to second guess the judgments that he's making about how best to create an environment to ultimately have a discussion for a new trade and security agreement between Canada and the United States. I mean, Canada was nowhere before that apology, and I wasn't in the room, but I can only assess what happened after the apology, where again you had the president say that Prime Minister Carney is a gentleman and that he respects him. And at the end of the day, there will be discussions, there will be negotiations, and you need that respect. You need the president to have that relationship with the Prime Minister. And I think we have to leave it to the Prime Minister to figure out how to create the best possible environment for that to occur.
So to your point about there will be negotiations, John Bolton also said he's advising Canada that wait until the new year to negotiate a new trade deal when the U.S. Supreme Court will likely have decided on President Trump's tariffs. What's your take on that advice?
He can just reverse it, though. Like, the president of the United States is not going to be blocked. His decisions aren't going to be blocked by the Supreme Court. It's just Trump is going to continue to do what he needs to do in order to secure the bag for America. And if it's under the guise of national security, I highly doubt relying on the decision of a Supreme Court is a wise choice. Like, Canada is so pathetic. We're not waiting to be able to stand up to our opponents or work with our with our neighbors. Canada's waiting for the neighbors to trip and fall. It's weird. Why is Canada so weak? It's pathetic, to be honest.
Wait it out.
So, again, I think the timing of negotiations we should leave to the people who are actually in the room and actually talking to each other and not from outside observers. I respect John Bolton. I respect the role that he played in the past Trump administration. I am not sure he would be my first source of advice on how to get along with Donald Trump these days. So I don't think that's great advice either. And I note that waiting for the Supreme Court, to me, that's sort of that's really the wrong advice.
And why is that so? Yeah.
Well, because I don't think tariffs are really where the negotiation is going to take place. I think the most important negotiation between Canada and the United States is going to relate to the renewal of USMCA CUSMA, not tariffs. Let's remember, I would ask anyone, tell me what you think the tariff rate is right now that's being applied by the United States on Canada, and you'd be giving me numbers like 20%, 30%, 40%. None of those is right. Because of the application of CUSMA, the exemption of Canadian goods that are subject to CUSMA, the effective tariff rate is somewhere between 4 and 6%. So the real story here, the real negotiation, the complexity of the negotiation is not going to be about tariffs. It's going to be about an extension of CUSMA, an extension of USMCA. Tariffs may play into that, but I don't think that's the big story. And I certainly don't think that the Supreme Court decision is going to be the be-all and end-all of that decision.
But so to your point, sorry for interrupting you there about the percentage.
No, and it's honestly so sad that our media is like, hey, shouldn't we just wait to see what the Supreme Court says? Like, no, dude, you're waiting to see what another country's court system is going to say when you're dealing with you're not dealing with like the Italian leader or like the leader of Luxembourg. You're dealing with the United States president. I'm sorry, but if the United States is angry with Canada, Canada's going to feel that wrath. It's just how it's going to be. So instead of waiting to see what the outcome of the court system in America provides for this, you should be focusing on how can we better the situation. And again, this just goes to show that our media is so stupid, and it's just constant fear mongering for our nation. I really feel bad for people that fall into this trap of consuming the mainstream media all the time.
Tariff you were referring to, we understand about 75 to 80% of goods are tariff-free because of CUSMA, USMCA, but there is a sector, steel, aluminum, copper, all of that, they are facing very high tariffs, and they are not 7 or 8%, as you were alluding, sir. So when we discuss tariffs, it's one part of the deal, and the other part of the negotiations is CUSMA, which is, of course, scheduled next year. So there is still a hefty amount of tariffs on those sectors, and Canada is hurting.
There's no doubt that Canada is hurting. There's no doubt that the aluminum, steel, and it's aluminum and steel more than copper, but that aluminum and steel are a real problem. The effective tariff rate that I quoted you includes aluminum and steel, and it's not 75 or 80% of the goods are subject to CUSMA. It's more like 90 or 95% of the goods are subject to CUSMA. The overall effective tariff rate that Canada is now experiencing, including aluminum and steel, is somewhere between 4 and 6%. So that's just not the story. And again, period. It's not the story. But let me finish, because it's really important. The Supreme Court decision is going to matter a lot less than people think it is, because the Supreme Court decision relates to tariffs that are imposed under one law. There are multiple sources of authority for the president to impose tariffs on Canada and other countries. The president has already alluded to the fact that he is working on alternatives in the event the Supreme Court rules against him. But if anyone in Canada thinks that if the Supreme Court strikes down the tariffs under IEEP, that all of a sudden they're going to disappear, including the aluminum, steel, and copper tariffs, they're just not right. That is not the case. There are other authorities for the president to impose tariffs, and he will, let me put it this way, he will certainly try to use them. So we could be talking about years before this is all sorted out. CUSMA is going to be here and gone, or here and put in place again well within that window.
There you go. That's what needed to be said. I'm actually thankful that we watched the full interview, because it sucks that it was put at the end, but it is what it is. I guess that's when the question finally came up, that even if we're Canada's putting all our eggs in the basket of hoping that the American judicial system goes against the president of the United States, that's just the end all be all. And it really isn't. It really isn't. I'm glad that the former U.S. ambassador to Canada actually dropped that type of a bombshell, because now we know you can't rely on the court system. The president's going to do what the president's going to do, and he's got many different angles, and it's going to work in favor of Trump. So if Canada keeps going down this rabbit hole of we need to be anti-American and anti-Trump and elbows up and stick it to them, we're in for a very, very rough ride. So all the liberals out there that keep voting for the liberals to stick up to America, you're causing us more harm than good. That's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. hit the like, subscribe. See you guys later. Bye-bye.